In this episode of the Texas Private School Podcast, Lucero, Pyle, and Phillips push Parish into the title game for the seventh consecutive year. Carson Ramsey goes ballistic to earn the Eagles of Brazos a date with destiny. Robinson and Lutheran South suffer heartbreak once again as Toon will lead an Eagle party into Waco come Friday. Prestonwood beats the brakes off of Legacy as Yantis seeks his first state title with the Lions, and the Saints go marching into Waco behind an electric performance from the best receiving corps in the state. All this and more in the semifinal recap of the Texas Private School Podcast. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Texas Private School Podcast. I, as always, am one half of your hosting crew, Wes Tolleson, joining you from frigid Sunnyvale, Texas. Walker Lott calls in from lamentful College Station, Texas, where it's the vibes are low following whatever happened on Friday, which I'll choose to ignore for the time being. All that being said, I have to put a disclaimer now. This is a bit of a flu game for myself. I don't know what my sickness is. I don't feel great. I know I don't sound great. If my voice goes out halfway through, I apologize. I do have what is colloquially known around the Tolleson circles as holiday punch. Its true contents are unknown, but if I start acting more erratic as the episode goes on, blame the punch. All that being said, Walker Lott, not the highest of vibes in College Station, but you should consider it a wash because as bad as that game was, the game we were on site to cover, I think was even better.
Yeah, it was absolutely. The game in the morning was the best game of the years, and it lived up to the hype, which was awesome. And yeah, I got tickets on Wednesday or late Thursday to go to the A&M Texas game in Austin. So drove down there, got there literally as kickoff was happening. DKR was a maze to get through. It's a horseshoe, so you can't get on one side of the horseshoe tip to the other. They don't let you cross that way, so I had to go all the way around to get there to get to my seats. And I'll give them credit. I don't think it's as loud as Kyle, but it's a good vibe. The in-game entertainment side of things, much better than Kyle. I'll say that to our Austin fans in here. Um, and according to the game, I mean, we got out schemed, we got out coached, we got out physicaled and out hearted, man. They wanted it more, and you could tell. We did okay in the first half, and then we just gave it up in the second half. But I guess the best thing is that our reward for losing by 10 to our dearest rivals is hosting a playoff game. Which at the end of the day, being 11-1, if you told me in July we were going to be 11-1, hosting a playoff game at Kyle Field, I'd be like, okay, that I would love that. I would not expect that to happen.
That
So
would not be my reaction. My reaction would be you're insane and go
right.
seek mental help.
And also, like, to talk a little college football for a little bit, I don't like people talking about our record because if you told me that we would have beaten LSU at home, Notre Dame at home, Mizzou at home, South Carolina at A&M, and all these things when I think South Carolina was number 11 before the season started, LSU was what, top 10 probably. Like those are really good teams before the season. We did what we could with the season we had, you know what I mean? And the record shows. So I think
It's not like we got curb stomped by
right.
Texas. It was a close game and at their house the majority of the time.
Dude,
And we played terrible, to be honest with you.
if you don't get out schemed or out coached, and honestly, the players didn't have a lot of heart and a lot of things. They did not tackle well on defense side of things. Well, that's we're getting into the weeds, but like if you play okay for like a quarter, you win that game because we only lost by 10. If we're a special teams field goal debauchery away from driving having multiple chances down there to score with one game. And then so Marcel doesn't have to press anything, push anything, and have those interceptions like he did. Like I last thing on that game is that we need to have spend $1 million in NIL to buy the best holder and the best kicker in the country and bring him to Kyle Field because our field goal unit has been rough all year and it needs to be changed. Going back to the Texas high school football because that's what actually matters on this podcast. A lot of fun things, a lot of good games, a lot of kind of craziness happens a little bit in some games, and we'll see how it ends up as we're headed to Waco this weekend. I'm very, very excited.
I echo that fully in that this is probably my favorite week of the entire year, especially the weekend as we get to the state game. We were even telling our analysts that are coming with us to Waco that this is the most fun week of the year. The vibes are always incredibly high. It's basically a content team basically working towards one singular goal, and I think we get the best content out of anyone in the state in the 2 days at the state championships in Waco. We're incredibly excited. We now have the slate of who's going to face off Division One through Division Four. But before we preview that, we have to get into a recap of the previous week's action. Before we dive deeper into the 5 games that we selected as games of the week, we're going to go through the other 3 games that took place, a couple of which maybe should have been games of the week, maybe
Yep.
not a couple, one of which probably should have been a game of the week. We won't get to that one first, but we're going to hit off rip is Dallas Christian to no surprise blast Dallas Covenant 49-7. For the first time I feel like in a while, Dallas Christian only has one quarterback attempt to pass in junior Luke Savard. He went 11 for 14, 180 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Of course, the game was carried by the senior running back DJ Stanley, who yet again goes for almost 200 yards with 176. He averages 10 yards per carry with 3 touchdowns. Um, Savard's 3 touchdowns were caught by one senior Eli Stanley. Dylan Belt, the fantastic sophomore, also had 91 yards and a touchdown, whereas Brody Baxter, the junior, had one reception for 50 yards and a score. Looking at the defensive side of the ball, of course, the sophomore Hudson Dietz went crazy with 7 tackles, 3 tackles for loss. Jackson Barr, who also is a fantastic linebacker, had 10 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and then a smattering, probably 5 or 6 other guys at TFLs. 12 total tackles for loss. I don't have any sacks on the stat line. And then 3 interceptions, one by Eli Hamby, one by Dylan Bell, and one by Phoenix Pence. Phoenix Pence is a guy that I like a lot. I mentioned he's a great two-way player for them, as is Dylan Belt. And I know that we haven't talked about DC just a whole ton this year. I feel like they're almost, as an overall unit, I think this team's as good as the team last year, even if you take Luke Carney off that team. I think they are really, really, really good. And guys like Dylan Belt, like Phoenix Pence that go both ways, DJ Stanley, even Luke Savard at quarterback. I mean, this is a team that, we'll break down the matchup between Lubbock Christian here on the preview, but they are overwhelmingly the state favorites, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Good for DC moving on to the title game and a heck of a season for Dallas Covenant. Definitely has to be one of the best seasons for them in program history. So shout out to them. Moving on to the next game, Lubbock Christian beats Bernie Geneva 71-13. This was I think like 28-13, 21-13 at the end of the first quarter, and they did not care about it at the rest of the game. Lubbock Christian, I don't have any stats for Lubbock Christian on Max Preps, but something to mention is Caleb Quidadamo went 18 of 38. Whew,
Ooh.
47% completion percentage and an interception. I think kind of that shows everything. An offense that has been so good all year, right? Uh, Ends up only having 47%, 47% completion for their quarterback and an interception. Receiving wise, no catches at all for Brady Chandler, who I believe was back this week. So something I mean, they probably locked him down a little bit. A historic season for Bernie Geneva. This is a team, right, that is used to being in the semifinals or in the state title game in these small school divisions. So nothing unusual for this team, but still a good season to kind of get back to where they deserve to be at over the years. And Lubbock Christian has a chance at destiny. Their first state title visit in Division Three in their program's history, which is pretty cool. And Softly is not one of the guys that doesn't know how to win games. So he's going to be coming prepped and ready to go for the Dallas Christian matchup this week.
That is absolutely true. And now we move into the last game that we didn't preview in depth, which this was a game that there's a decent amount to extrapolate from.
Yeah.
First Baptist narrowly escaped Central Texas Christian 21-14. And I'm in possession of 3 separate clips from this game to which Central Texas alleges were blown calls by the officials. We'll have them on screen as we talk about each one, and you can be the judge. And again, for context, I've only heard from the Central Texas side of this game. I haven't heard anything from First Baptist, so I'm sure there might have been a couple plays that could have gone either way from their side, but this is the information that we have. The first of which is a touchdown that is caught by Ike Kilmchuk, the fantastic tight end for Central Texas Christian. And you watch and you watch and you watch, and it's a great catch, not even a whole lot of contact. A flag comes in late. This was called offensive pass interference on Ike. I try to be pretty, objective and unbiased and not very extravagant in my reporting of things. That is horrible.
Yeah.
That is terrible. And you can tell it's terrible because not a single person on First Baptist looks around like and they're like, that's offensive pass interference. Or like, oh, even the DB is like, man, I got beat. That sucks. He's like, oh, and keep in mind, there's even like a non-zero chance that that maybe this wasn't even offensive pass interference and the kid just lied to me. But this is we're just going off what was sent to us, and if that was actually called OPI and called back, I mean it's a disgusting act. It's terrible. From a former receiver, if that was called on me, I'd be ejected because I'm not going to say what I do, but I'd be very upset. Going to the second play. For context, this is an Austin Evans touchdown run up the left sideline that was called for a hold. And the more I look at this, the more I think the officials got this one right. If you will look at the tight end on the left side of the formation, I think that's probably work. I don't know who that's working on. It might be Corey Thomas. But you can see as the clip goes on, kind of gets outside of 14's grip, and you see the old kind of reach of death where he's trying to go one way and he seemed to be held by that tight end. I'm going to go on record and say I think the call is fine, or at least it's not insanely egregious. I can't tell from that vantage point if it's actually a hold, but I mean, there's something there where the defensive end gets outside of his range. The kid's hands stay there. You can
Yeah.
see some finagling on the back end.
It,
That I'm not that upset with.
it's the type of thing where it's like the defensive lineman just kind of goes like everywhere and like he sees the play of course happen before the offensive lineman, right? Because he doesn't know where the ball's going, right? So like he's able to get out there and then the guy holds on maybe for a second too long just because that's what he's doing, but you get called for it. So I mean, I think it's the right call at the end of the day, but it does suck. Like it's something like what is he supposed to do type of scenario, but
Yeah,
that is probably by definition the right call.
I think it is. And the last one here is another Austin Evans touchdown run. You see, basically, it's actually a heck of a play
Yeah.
by the defensive back to basically try and submarine him and cut him at the legs. Because if you try and arm tackle Austin Evans up high, it's not going to work. All that being said, you watch and you watch and you watch. Evans goes airborne, and then first of all, a heck of a play by him as he's going down, puts his
Yeah.
hand down, not his forearm, so he won't be down, to keep him up a little bit longer, and then extends over the goal line. And obviously, when he comes down on the ground, the ball crosses the plane. The question is, as that knee hits, is the football over? I
Yeah.
mean, from what I'm saying, it looks like it is. And also from where he landed it so far over, I think that the ball crosses the plane. So that should have absolutely been a touchdown. It's bad, but like I'm also saying as an official that doesn't have the luxury of replay, it's a
Yeah.
bang bang play. Like it's almost impossible to call in real time. Two things can be true. The first of which I understand the officials not being able to make that play in real time. The second thing being it absolutely is a touchdown. It should have been called a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean that's the type of thing where you know in college in the NFL you have the pylon cam and so you can find that perfectly right. And this level you just don't and you got to go from the judgment you have. Um yeah, I think it's a touchdown, but like I understand why it's not called one. Like I understand both sides of it. Because he has extended so far out and um I mean, he's from the line of scrimmage. He should have the view to know. So I'm not trying to I'm trying to make excuses for the guy, but I don't think there's many
Right.
excuses to make.
Which I don't know why we're trying to defend officials because
Yeah,
I always used to hate officials growing
right.
up.
I'm trying to do the right thing, but yeah, it's this type of thing where if you think about it, right, they lost by 7. That first touchdown, the Iclem check, that should be a touchdown. Should be a tie game, at least going to overtime. And on the flip side, right, where um if that touchdown by Austin Evans is scored, that's a ball game, and we have the biggest upset in D4 history, right? Like
Yeah.
that's how crazy this game is. We don't know the whole game. We don't have any insight, so maybe like we could know that First Baptist had multiple touchdowns called back, and we don't even know that, right? So it's football. At the end of the day, you don't want to ever put it into the hands of the refs, but in those certain instances, it should have not been in the hands of the refs, if that makes
No.
sense, right? So.
No.
Um, it's crazy. It was very funny because when we think about this game, I think both Wes and I didn't put it on the 5 games of the week because we were like, okay, that's gonna be a blowout by 28, right? That's kind of what we thought. Um, but the fact that this makes it this close is so interesting. Um, is it the thing where First Baptist didn't play their game and they were just hiding things? Was it like, did they have any injuries? Which I heard not really, right? It's just kind of like Are they not as good, or do they get just comfortable in Division 4 because they're playing D4, right? Like are there all those things playing into in a matchup where Central Texas is a dang good football team, right? They're a team that beats Division 3 teams here and there this year, right? Like it's a solid team. They have a lot of players, and I was shocked in this one for sure.
And it's interesting because I always feel like Central Texas matches up better with First Baptist than Brazos does for whatever reason. Central Texas, no, sorry, First Baptist coaches were saying after the state game last year, they were like, that was a better team than Brazos Christian. Central Texas was in the semifinals whenever they give them a push. It's completely different teams, different coaching staff this year. We'll see. But I mean, this is stark because
Yeah,
keep in mind, First Baptist just beat Central Texas by 7, likely because of some gracefulness by the officials. If we go back to October the 17th, Brazos Christian destroyed Central Texas in that game. You're
yeah,
right, 42-16. Now, granted, you said that was almost like a divine win that came halfway through that game and shifted it in Brazos' favor. I don't think if Brazos and Central Texas play again, it's that wide of a margin.
for sure.
And also, I want to be very clear. I'm not saying Brazos Christian is coming out and destroying First Baptist in the state title game. You wait, stick around for our preview to see if I hold that same opinion. All that being said, before you speak, I'll put a bow on this and say it sucks for Central Texas. It really does. As much as I love First Baptist, I think it'd be awesome to see some upset of that magnitude in the semis and then get a rematch for the state title. Sadly, that's not the way the wind blows. I feel for the seniors on Central Texas. I feel for the coaching staff. You play your guts out, you earn it, and it feels like it's stolen from you, basically. Not saying First Baptist isn't deserving, because from a talent standpoint, they definitely are. It's just a sucky situation.
For sure. And it hurts. And yeah, and look, going into Central Texas's defense lines up like six guys at the line of scrimmage and blitzes most of the game, right? And you have to have a quarterback and offensive line that can kind of carry through it and get the right reads and do it. And Hudson Jacobus did a great job of this during the game in the regular season. And I wonder if for like on the First Baptist side of things, they just never had that happen to them, right? Their offensive line and Dylan Jones just hadn't have that happened, and you kind of see the result where it is. Because of that, that intrigues me because we're facing a guy in Jordan Black who is known for getting his guys prepared to do the right thing, right? They're gonna have their guys, the more physical team. It's gonna be a fun matchup. There's guys on this Brazos Christian team that are going to be equal in terms of just physicality and talent in certain aspects. The question is the First Baptist's more talented team, overall, is that going to extend them to lead? Because you saw in this one where talent didn't get them this win. Like it should have been a loss, right? So, that's going to be the interesting part of things. Overall, it hurts. I feel for Central Texas Christian. This is a team where, I don't know how good they're going to be next year. They lose a lot of talent. Rhett Humphrey, Ike Klimchuk, who's an absolute dude, man. He's going to be an all-state. He should be first team all-state #1 linebacker, #2 behind Jordan and Ostis. But like he's that type of player. And then Austin Evans, like we made the joke in our group chat the other day, like Death Texas and Central Texas having a great running back. He's one of the best to ever do it there at Central Texas, and hope he understands that because he's a heck of a ball player. I don't know where he's going to end up going for college, if he's going to play ball, but I hope they remember him in the halls of Central Texas as the time goes on because he's a heck of a player. In this senior class, I mean, this Central Texas senior class probably the best ever. Like helped them get to some back-to-back semifinals, right? So heck of a season for them. Proud of them. Best of luck going forward for all those guys. But yeah, First Baptist, you get scared. And going back to that, is this going to be the type of thing where the All Saints thing where we talked about where they played TCS Lubbock really really close when they shouldn't have, and they woke them up for the next week? Is that what's going to happen now, or is First Baptist not as good as we thought? We'll see.
We will see. We will figure that out in one short week's time on Saturday in Waco. Keep in tune with our social channels because we're going to have a fantastic amount of coverage from that game. But that being said, that concludes the 3 games that were not on our games of the week. Crazy. Now there's only 8 games being played total throughout private school football. We will get to the other 5 here shortly. But first, we're going to hear from some of the best and brightest minds from across the state. This is, as always, Minute with the Interns.
Two unbeaten powerhouses with All Saints and the Regents Knights facing off in a much anticipated playoff battle. Some may even say the game of the year. All Saints came into this game ready to dominate. Their offense was balanced and ruthless, mixing up run plays with precision passing. Before the first quarter was over, they strike first, setting the tone for the rest of the game. But Regents answers quickly, with their playmakers refusing to back down. For every Saints score, the Knights punch one right back in. As the game winds down, we find ourselves in the fourth quarter with tight scores, and it is anyone's game. Then the Saints break free with an interception from junior Nolan Leffy, giving the Saints the ball back with 2 minutes remaining. The Saints advance, winning at 49-35. While Regents' season ends here, but for fans on both sides of this game, it will forever be remembered. It is a testament to high school football, showing the power it has over all of us.
Hello, I'm Bradley Hanna, and I was at a beautiful game this past Friday. So, day after Thanksgiving, 2nd Baptist LSA, state semifinals in TAPS Division II. Of course, these two teams, they play each other a lot. It's a rivalry game, but we get it in the semifinals, and we had a great matchup. 2nd Baptist wasn't expected to be here. They started the season 1-6, but now they make it all the way to the state semis after a big upset against the Woodlands. LSA, we expected them to be here. The Pioneers have looked great all season long, but they were without starting quarterback Holt Teekman. So Reed Jeffrey has to come in, the junior, and he played exceptionally well. He's able to get it to guys like Braden Robinson, who had a phenomenal night. He was able to beat the Eagles on the deep ball all night long, and also Kyrie Sadler. A bunch of just deep balls that we saw from the Pioneers, but it worked as the Eagles DBs were definitely struggling, but they stepped it up and were able to force a couple of stops to make it a close game before half. Then LSA had the ball right before halftime, blocked field goal. So 2nd Baptist, they were just going to take a knee. And we were going to head to half. But then 2nd Baptist fakes us out, fake knee, and they got it down to about the LSA 30-yard line and were able to kick a field goal going into halftime to take a 20-17 lead. So the Eagles had the lead going into half. I really said it was anyone's ball game. I wouldn't have been surprised if either team came out on top. Both teams looked great on offense. Canatoon firing on all cylinders. He was able to connect with Alan Thomas. Langston Davis had a big run. And then Reed Jeffrey doing the same for the Pioneers. Braden Robinson, Sadler, as I mentioned. Just a big day offensively for both sides. And then we opened out of halftime, and the LSA got things going pretty early. They scored a touchdown. Then they were able to force a fumble on 2nd Baptist's first drive. They were able to score another touchdown. Eagles were down by 14 points at one point in this fourth quarter, and then they were able to come back, and then Canatoon was able to lead a game-winning drive after a sophomore quarterback, Casey Dunn, got put in that linebacker, got the interception, and 2nd Baptist had a chance to take the lead. They were only down by 4. So they end up scoring the touchdown with about a minute left, and then their defense was able to put the stop on that LSA amazing offense. And 2nd Baptist goes back to state, where they will face off in a rematch of last year's D2 state championship, All Saints versus the 2nd Baptist Eagles. It's going to be a great one. 2nd Baptist wins it 41-38 in a thriller on Friday night. Anyway, I'm Bradley Hanna. We'll see you in Waco. Thanks.
Thank you once again to our fantastic intern and student analysts that get us coverage from across the state. But with that being said, a wild Ryan Schroeder has magically appeared back on the program. Ryan, sadly, you had other things to attend to and didn't get to join us for Game of the Week. But briefly, not Game of the Week or Game of the Year, Game of the Century, more like it. Your brief thoughts on everything private school football and where we're at right now in this current moment.
Yeah, sorry I missed the little intro, but I'm here to talk about the 5 games of the week. No, I'm excited. It's state championship week, so let's get rolling here. We got 5 games to recap from last week. I know y'all already probably ran through A&M Texas, so I'll let y'all have that. But yeah, nothing crazy in my neck of the woods. I'm ready to get into it.
Definitely so. So we are going to start with Game of the Week. Number 1, Concordia Lutheran at Parish Episcopal. Got to shout out Creighton Seegers and Whitney Legger for the fantastic coverage. And this, quite frankly, was exactly what we expected it would be. Parish is just too much offensively and defensively for Concordia to handle as they roll to a 49-14 victory in the seniors' final game on Gloria Snyder. Lucero throws for 250 and 3 touchdowns, one apiece to Pyle, Hanish, and Cook as the Michigan man leads the pack with 150 receiving yards. The Panthers also dominated this one on the ground as Hanish had 11 carries for 131 yards and a touchdown. Jonathan Phillips had 7 carries for 74 yards and a pair of scores as the Panthers collectively averaged over 8 yards per carry. Concordia's touchdowns came from, surprise, surprise, Jackson Coleman and Malik Liberty, which I have to say, doing a crossover fadeaway Sally with the ball down 35 is objectively a hilarious thing to do. I laughed really, really hard. I'm going to be blunt here. The South needs to be better. I know it doesn't just work like that, and there's so many different factors at play, but the fact that we're seeing this in a state semifinal game is tough. I know that's not a problem unique to the region or even the division, as we saw Prestonwood blow out Legacy, Brazos Christian blow out Rosehill, DC over Covenant, Lubbock Christian over Geneva. But the fact that this has become the narrative with the South this long, it's tiring to me. I want a season where I can look at this region and go, maybe at least one of you can beat a contender in the North. That's all I ask. That being said, Walker, I say all of that, and I think that's much less a problem with the South being not great and more of a problem with three teams out of the North being so good every year. You look at Concordia and you're like, this is a great team. You look at Jackson Coleman, Malik Liberty, Rome Stanford, Ryan Nietzsche, like these are good players. It's just not a super team.
Yeah, I mean, if you say the quiet part out loud, just say they need to recruit better. I mean, that's what you need to say. Because if you're saying that they need to be better, then they just need to recruit better. And that's that at the end of the day, that's what matters, right? If you had the graduating parish Episcopal team going into this year, it's a whole different ball game, right? So you got to think of it like that. Like they have a lot of key pieces for train. Don't get me wrong. Like Canish, Pyle, some of their offensive line was going to come back, right? They had key pieces, but you would have not had Siler Cook. You would have not had Braden Spinks. You would have not had
they always plug in gaps with the transfers.
Jonathan Phillips, Brett Tupana, like Big Red would have not been there. I know he has played all year, but you know what I mean? Like Israel Johnson wouldn't have been there. Like that's like 8-9 names I've just mentioned, right? Dude, just need to recruit better. Like better for better or the worse, it is the end of the day. You just need to recruit better, and that's the hardest part. You're saying with Southern schools, it's harder to do that, and because a lot of the programs around Tomball are really good programs, right? And the same thing for St. Thomas. A lot of the good Houston programs are pretty solid down there, right? The transferring down in Houston is definitely still there. Don't get me wrong, it happens every time, but like, it's not the same where like they can basically go into anywhere of that north area of Dallas and get anyone they really want. You know what I mean?
Could you argue the same thing though? If the programs are good in that area, that means there's an abundance amount of kids that are not playing, not starting, that are still good athletes that could go to these schools, right?
Yeah,
If
but
that, if that sentiment is true, then
like St. Thomas is, I mean, you could say St. Thomas is the best tap school down in the South for the past couple of years, right? And every Second Baptist you can argue as well, but like St. Thomas doesn't get a lot of kids in, and they're still historic, like a really, really solid program year in, year out, right? Like Obina Ume is a guy who went through the program just like his brother, Pierce Jacobson. Like their biggest transfer was Derek Stevenson. He's already gone. Like,
right.
I think what Ryan was saying is if at these public schools in Houston, if there's if they're that good, then there should be an abundance of twos that aren't getting starting reps that you could pull out and go to St. Thomas and things like that.
Well, I mean, that's what you saw. Like, I mean, Malik Liberty last year, right? Jaden Jones, the other running back who transferred. I think he's now in like DC or something now, but like, Derek Stevenson was that last year where he left Pato to be a guy here, and then they wanted him back because of other things. But like, yes, you see it all the time. Second Baptist probably had a couple guys. Fort Bend, that's the perfect example where Blake Hamilton wasn't the number one guy at Katy Tompkins, went there, dominated, got his offers, and went back to Tompkins, right? Like, it happens all the time down there. Private schools, especially in Houston, are used as a stepping stone. They're like you're saying, Ryan, they're the twos, get some sophomore and junior film, and then they go back for their senior year. That's the issue there. The guys at Parish and Prestonwood and Liberty, they stay all 2 years.
Fair.
That's the issue. That's something that needs to fix, and we can talk more about that as time goes on. This is not really a Concordia issue. Concordia, this is their best season in D1 history. This is awesome for them. This is a historic season for them. Jackson Coleman's a heck of a player, and he's going to get awarded as such. Like, Rome Stanford is technically a transfer. He comes over from St. Pius, right? Like, he even knows a guy, right? But like, they had an offensive lineman come over from, I forget where, So they had a couple transfers that helped them out, but still, like it's not the same. And like if you talk about the transfer portal, I know we're going a little deep, and I'll stop it here. But like St. Thomas's 1 year, right, where they made the state championship. You talked about Larry Benton coming in for 2 years, Aaron Valentine for 2 years, Dante Lewis came in for 2 years. Um, who else? I think a receiver or two, right? Like they have multiple guys that year that they had 2 years of staying at St. Thomas. That one first year they're getting used to TAPS football, getting used to being together. That second year they really, really found their stride, right? So yes, but that's the thing about it is, right? Granted, that was probably a down year. That was Sawyer's junior year. I still think St. Thomas probably was the more talented team going into that year, and they should have. They were up in that game, Wes, until the fourth quarter when they fumbled the bag. But like I think going back to my point, the South needs to recruit better. That's that you have to say the quiet part out loud, and that's the message you have to tell these guys.
There's
No.
there's a famous thing I once heard from Rich McGuire, and he said, you know, you can't recruit kids from the high schools in the area, but I will recruit every single eighth grader in the entire Houston area. And I think the sentiment's true. It's like that's how he was successful. He brought guys in, but he also looked around the rules of what he could do. And yeah, I mean, when he said that out loud, I was like, that's crazy, but it's true. He took eighth graders, and to be honest, that's what Parish does too with the Highland Park quarterback pedigree that they have going on at this point too. Like that's not a crazy concept across the state, but overall, just cut into my quick thoughts. I mean, obviously, I've been telling y'all from the beginning. As soon as Legacy beats he's in St. Thomas, you knew that this game was not even going to be remotely close. Especially after Legacy loses to Prestonwood this week, which we'll hit in a second. But all that to be said, I knew this was going to happen. It's a great year for Concordia, but leaps and bounds the North is above the South. Leaps and bounds. They are so far above them. It's not even the same category at this point.
No, I think so. We'll wrap that up with a very interesting discussion. Somehow it always goes back to recruiting. All roads lead back to recruiting in Texas private school football. However, we will cease that discussion and now move on to the one of the two battles in Division 4 that we haven't mentioned yet. That is Rosehill Christian versus Brazos Christian. The clock strikes midnight on Cinderella. She turns into a frog. I don't know. I never watched the movie. Black, Brazos, and Grok dominate the lesser Cardinals to the tune of 50-6. Hudson Jacobus throws for 257 and four touchdowns to four separate receivers. Micah Sachs, Clark Pomalo, Carson Ramsey, and Cade Bird, with Ramsey leading the way with 75 yards. But the Eagles flipped the script on the run-heavy other Eagles, which I'm now just realizing that this is a matchup of two separate Eagles. As they rushed for 350 yards, averaging over 11 yards per carry behind the strong efforts of Grant Boehm, Jake Heffron, Jesse Conley, Ty Urban, and Darius Brumskill on the offensive line. Ramsey had 6 rushes for 115 yards and a score, while Reed Jackson had 7 for 123 and 2. Both of those guys are juniors and will be back next year, by the way. Crazy. Hunter Black led the charge defensively, as always, with 3 tackles for loss, with Ty Urban and Jack Williams filling in with 10 and 11 tackles, respectively, which leads to a game with First Baptist, a rematch at state. To quote the great prophets from Dumb and Dumber, so you're telling me there's a chance. Walker Lott, I know we're not doing our preview right now, but if we go back to our old friend, the transitive property, First Baptist just beat Central Texas by 7. Brazos Christian beat them 42-16. Does this mean that Brazos Christian is going to blow out First Baptist in the state game?
Dude, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if you told me a week, literally 2 days ago, 3 days ago, I would have been like, "You're out of your mind." It's First Baptist by 28, but now I have no idea. I truly don't. Like we said on the for the in their scoreboard, right? Like, is this the type of thing where it's the Fort Worth All Saints effect of like you played TCS bad and you don't do it again next week and you kind of fix everything going into the next week? Okay, sick. And this is not a game for them, or are they not as good as we thought? Or are they playing to the Division 4 level that everyone else is at, right? Like I don't know. I'm telling you, man. Brazos Christian is a tough physical football team. I think the interesting fact of Carson Ramsey was more of a receiver for in the past couple weeks, and now he's a running back somewhat. Like he's more in the running game. It's interesting, right? They're using him in different ways. That's pretty cool. I like Hudson Jacobus. I think he's going to be the best quarterback on that field. Carson Ramsey is going to be a guy who's going to be one of the best players on that field. They have a good offensive line. Hunter Black is a great defensive lineman as well on the other side with uh, Darius Bumskill and others. Like they have some pieces, man. Um, I'm not going to say they're the favorites. Of course they're not. I don't know what the line would be if we're saying that line as well. But like I think Brazos Christian is going to come in with a great game plan, and it's going to be an interesting ball game. I really do think so, because I don't think they're going to just hide, crouch over and cry and hide in a corner and like just be like, just let them win, just let them win. No, like they're going to come out and want to win this game, and that's going to be the interesting part. And also, shout out to Rosehill, historic season, great season for them. I'm awesome to see this program rise. For what we thought in the preseason to now, it's been a heck of a season for them, and they should honestly understand that this is a great season for them. So shout out to them. They can definitely build on this. I know a couple of guys are going to be coming back. Um, younger Hurst is going to be a guy probably at the quarterback position going into next year. That's going to be really cool. I think they bring back Davila, the running back next year. So a lot of good things going for them going into next year. And with I think Central Texas being a little bit worse next year, and Brazos going up to Division Three, they might be the team to beat next year in TAPS Division 4 District 2, and that's going to be something to watch.
Definitely a possibility. Ryan Schroeder, Rosehill has a great season, but ultimately Brazos Christian shows why they will be playing in the state title game next week with a dominant effort. Your thought on the Eagles' performance?
Yeah, 24-1 over the last two seasons is extremely impressive. Brazos Christian is literally in a category like where, we expect this every year at this point now. In D4, they are in that conversation. I don't want to look too much into like obviously previewing and stuff the state championship because I know we're going to do that on Tuesday. But one thing I'll hit from last year's state championship that kind of strikes me that I feel like has to change. There's different players on both sides of the ball in this game this year versus last year, but as a team last year, they only put up 149 yards, total yards last year in the state championship game. They threw three picks from Cooper Murr, who obviously is not the quarterback anymore, with Jacobus running things now. But with all that to be said, I just it looks different this year. Everything looks different. You have a new coach. You have new everything. Everything looks different for Brazos this year. This is not the same team as last year, obviously, but they're as good as last year. They have the same lead up to the game as they did last year in terms of record and blowing out teams along the way. They're in a great position. They're in a great position. It just all comes down to what First Baptist team shows up. Definitely make sure to tune back in for our state preview later this week. You're not going to want to miss it. I mean, this is going to be as good of a D4 matchup I think as we've had in a while, honestly.
Yeah, definitely so. And it's, you don't want to say it's nice to see, First Baptist look human for a second, but it is because you think, okay, maybe we're always rooting for competitiveness on this show. And maybe there's a chance, especially with a really, really good Brazos Christian team, that maybe we see a very competitive game that I think that this game will round out the state slate being the last game on, no. Yeah. Yes, it is on Saturday, correct. The night game on Saturday, hopefully a great game to finish it off.
Oh, yeah. I keep getting mixed up which ones, because we're going to have D1 off the rip. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Which feels odd to have that, but regardless, that's the way it's going to be. But with that being said, we're now going to move into our third matchup of the program. This one in TAPS Division 2, Lutheran South versus Second Baptist. Shout out Bradley Hanna for a fantastic job live tweeting this game. And just like that, the 1-6 Eagles, who finished third in their district, are one of the last two standing in the entire division. This game was a back-and-forth affair. It started with a 40-yard bomb from Reed Jeffries to Kyrie Sadler on the Pioneers' second play from scrimmage to open us at 7-0. The Pioneer defense would then force a 3-and-out, and then Jeffrey would hit Braden Robinson, who proceeded to drag two Eagles into the end zone with him. Langston Davis would then get the Eagles on the board by rolling over a defender and then rushing 70 yards to pay dirt. Jordan Jones would then record a pass breakup to force a South field goal to make it 17-8. Then Second Baptist would respond with some trickery as Toon would launch it to Levi Jackson off the flea flicker to draw within 3 points, 17-14 Lutheran South. Luck Norman would then boot a field goal through for the Eagles to knot us up at 17. Braden Robinson would then take a slant down to the Second Baptist second 7-yard line as the clock wound towards half, but the Pioneer field goal would then be blocked and we would enter the half tied at 17. Just kidding. Second Baptist would rip out a fake kneel, get the ball to the Pioneer 28, and then nail the field goal to go up 20 to 17 at the half. Forget the kitchen sink. The Eagles started ripping out drywall and hurling it at Lutheran South. Literally every trick in the book was pulled out in this game. But Lutheran South would open the half with another serving of Braden Robinson as he absolutely outclassed his defender en route to a 40-yard streak route score, 24-20 Lutheran South. After a couple stops, Second Baptist would then muff a punt, and following the Pioneer recovery, Reed Jeffrey would take it himself to extend the lead to 11 with a minute left in the third. But Toon would instantly respond by finding a wide open Allen Thomas for 6, cutting the deficit to 5, 31-26 Lutheran South. And finally, Second Baptist would snatch the lead with 7 minutes and 11 seconds left as Langston Davis powered in as a Toon 2-point conversion made it 34-31. But Lutheran South would then respond with some trickery of their own, a sweep reverse toss back to the quarterback as Jeffrey hit Luke Mazer in the end zone to go up 38-34 with 5.5 minutes left. And Lutheran South would recover a fumble on the ensuing kickoff and recover up 4 in 5:17 in a prime position to put this one away. However, Casey Dunn would come up with a massive interception as Second would have the ball at their own 33, down 4 with 3 minutes left to play. And that would prove 56 seconds too many, as following a Jordan Jones toe tap, Peyton Jones crosser, and Langston Davis finisher, Second would take a 41-38 lead and crush the championship dreams of Lutheran South. I just can't believe we're here. I mean, I just flash back to like 6 or 7. I didn't mean to say that, but still like 6 or 7 short weeks ago when we're looking at Second Baptist. Sure, whatever. I walked right into that one. That's 4 seconds too long. Bermudez clipped that. That makes back to what I was saying. That was an impressive feat of stamina. I'll give you that.
Oh my gosh.
Back to what I was saying. I look back to 7 or 8 weeks ago when Lutheran South or Second Baptist, excuse me, is losing to ESC and they're 1-6, and we're like, this might be the worst team in TAPS Division 2. Like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, Toon gets back, and that allows the receivers to go back to their normal spots. And then you look up, and it's like, oh, they're going to play in the state championship again. They're going to play for a title. How does this happen? Yeah. I mean, it's a lot to be said for the culture that's been built there with Beck Bryan, mostly to say like, hey, yeah, we started 1-6. Yeah, we've sucked up to this point. Guess what? We're in control of our own destiny. Just go out and win each game in front of you. And that they've done. On the flip side, this is gut-wrenching for Lutheran South. Not only did you lose this game that you basically you could have gotten a couple first downs and ended the game.
Yeah.
You also think back to the Woodlands Christian game where they were up by like 14 or 20 points at one point in that game and just slips through their fingers, and that gives them a district championship. And then maybe they get a more favorable path. They would have played Second Baptist actually even earlier than this. All that being said, it stinks. And more than anything, I am really, really sad that we don't get to watch Braden Robinson play football anymore. He is a dude that deserves his flowers somehow even more than we give in to him, just because he legit is one of the best receivers in Texas private school football, like straight up. And it's just the fact that Lutheran South isn't the sexiest team week in and week out. They're not traditionally, the Austin Regents, the Second Baptist, the Fort Worth All Saints, but it's just God almighty, he's so talented. If you just turn on his tape, he's big, he's fast, he's got great hands. He is a fantastic talent. Walker, that being said, Second Baptist is back in the state game. We're going to have a rematch. This is the second rematch on the slate after First Baptist and Brazos Christian seeing All Saints and Second matchup. Your thoughts on this game, and then Second moving into a rematch?
Yeah, I'll start with Lutheran South. I mean, this is one of the best seasons in program history, and they should understand that. Yeah, talking more about Braden Robinson, in this day and age where everyone just transfers to go win a title or get bigger, go to a bigger school, Braden Robinson just stuck there all 4 years. And I think that's a testament to him, and I think that should be something that we should honor because he wanted to be the guy at his school, and he was for 3 years. And I think that's really, really cool. And I hope they understand as he graduates and Lutheran South looks back of how they got to this point. Braden Robinson was the guy that kind of got them there in this senior class, right? And I think that's really, really cool. You also have to think, what if they had Asia Bradford this year too? if he wasn't out with season-ending injury, that guy also makes a lot of plays and maybe changes this game as well. Such a what-if season at the same time of being a historic season for Lutheran South, and you hate to see that for them. But Brad Robinson is a great player. It's been awesome to cover him. He's going to make a Division One team very happy. If they colleges go watch that kid, go watch his tape, and go offer that kid because he just makes things happen on both sides of the ball. He makes plays, and he's a heck of a player. I think with the new head coach over there, I think they're going to be in the right position to go compete. The thing for Lutheran South now is that they're up to Division One next year, and that's going to be interesting. But like we've seen, you can compete in Division One, District Two. This, if you recruit really well and you get some guys in, they could be a team to watch out for this year. They have Kenna Bradford coming back. I think Reed Jeffries, a junior, I believe, right? I believe so.
Yeah,
They
he
have
is.
some pieces coming back that it's going to be awesome to see how they are next year. I mean, Antonian, uh, how do they look? Right, St. Mike's, how do they look? Concordia with some guys leaving, how do they look? It's going to be an interesting team in District 2 next year, and I think Lutheran South will be right in the mix. On the other side, I don't know. We talk about it all the time. How in the world is Second Baptist here? This is awesome. It's a testament to Coach Bryden keeping these guys together. Like we've said, Cannon Tunes is just a flat out winner. I think Casey Dunn, isn't that the backup quarterback, right? The sophomore? And he's making plays on defense. Like,
Sure.
sure. This is awesome.
And the reason I know that I had forgotten, but I got to give a shout out to Bradley again, just because it's absolute ball knowledge. Just like after they won, just pulling out his phone and
Yes.
following everyone and just clip
It was
hunting.
great.
And
It was
and
great.
like the
Awesome.
reason I knew that is because Toon and Dunn walk over, and Toon it's like a state of absolute elation, just like capturing the raw emotion of the moment. Toon is like grabbing Casey Dunn. He's like, "This is the future." Then Casey Dunn's like, "No, he's the greatest. He's the greatest." And I'm like, that is an awesome clip.
It's the culture. Like they even with the season they had to start, they never counted themselves out, and they said, and I'll now say it because it's funny. I remember after the TWCA game, I was talking to Ken and I was walking off, and I said, "All right, man, hope I see you in Waco." Just jokingly, he goes, "Hope." Might. We'll see you in Waco. And he lived up to it, man. And he did. And shout out to him, man. And shout out to that team, man. It's going to be an awesome team. I'm excited to see Cannon one last time, Langston Davis one last time. Some of these guys, man, that are really, really good people and good guys and great football players one last time in the state title game because they absolutely deserve it. So can't bet against the Eagles, man. That's the last thing I'll say.
Yeah, it seems like the moniker for this team has become "Why Not Us," and that's something I honestly would have made fun of after a 1-6 start, and I would have looked like a jackass had I done that. Now that they're in the state title game, Ryan Schroeder, why not the Eagles?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, why not? Oh, okay, honestly, we all pick them. And like I kind of go
Right.
back to that being like, you wonder why we picked them, but it's like, man, like if you've seen them, they beat TW they beat Woodlands Christian. Like that is the monster. By the way, if they were to win all three of these games, that would be the craziest playoff run in probably it's already one of the craziest playoff runs from going 1-6. But for you to
I
be
think
Woodlands,
we,
LSA, then All Saints, quite literally, that would be the greatest run.
we would have to consult our friends at Lone Star Christian Sports Network, but I think that would be
Oh,
the craziest run.
to add on to that, LSCSN actually got a great tweet the other day.
I was gonna talk about that on the preview episode.
I think we should save it for the preview as well. I also have one more thing to hit for this
Okay.
too. Okay.
Yep.
It's fine. I already went through and screenshotted the whole thing.
The other thing I was going to say was the fact that I have to understand that Reed Jeffries stepped up, right? Reed Jeffries
Yes.
stepped up in the playoffs after Hulk Titeman went down. And you got to feel for Holt Titeman, too. I mean, the dude was 4 years at LSA. He sat behind John LeBlanc last year and basically finally gets the starting job after the full 4 years. And he gets all the way into a position where, hey, Woodlands Christian is lost. And we would, if I was healthy, I would have a chance to win this game for LSA. It's like, man, like, you just have to feel for Holt. You have to feel for a bunch of the guys on this LSA roster that are hurt with Asia and everybody else. Like, I sometimes just think about, obviously there's a lot of teams that have a lot of injuries. Second Baptist has dealt with the most injuries with everything that's going on in their season as well. So it's like everyone's dealt with injuries, but like I got to feel for Holt. mostly just because of how talented he's been this year, and the fact that he doesn't get to play in this game really does suck. But all things considered, LSA had a great season. I'm super excited for Reed Jeffrey if he stays next year as well. He'll be a great senior quarterback after already having this pressurized, state playoff run this year. And all things being said, Second Baptist, there's an Eagle party heading to Waco. Pretty sick that's happening again. That's crazy. 1-6 is crazy. Oh
It's
my gosh.
truly insane that we're back here, but it's going to make for a fantastic matchup, a rematch in Waco come Friday. Yes, come Friday. That being said, we're going to move up to a Division One game that we will see, or we'll see the Division One state game on Friday in Waco. It's Legacy Christian versus playing at Prestonwood. This was a semifinal matchup, and it's another game that materialized just as we thought it would. However, I did think Legacy would get on the board at least once, but Prestonwood cruises to Waco 44-0 behind 205 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns from senior standout running back Will Taylor. AJ Morial and somehow Luke Glass also had 2 rushing scores apiece, as Junior Niffen had 5 receptions for 81 yards. Cam Pettijohn was a monster with 11 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks. Kaylor Pettijohn, Keegan Britton, and Eddie Brownstein also recorded sacks. And Joshua Bingard also recorded 11 tackles, where sophomore Braden Bixler led the way in the secondary with 2 interceptions, as junior Landon Hollis came down with a pick as well. This is unquestionably a team that can win a state title. There is no doubt in my mind. They check every single box. Walker, whether it's quarterback at Luke Glass, whether it's running back with Will Taylor, or even AJ Morial taking direct snaps, whether it's receiver with Junior Niffen, whether it's linebacker with Kaylor Pettijohn, whether it's secondary with Braden Bixler, whether it's defensive line with Eddie Brownstein, it's whether it's the offensive line with Kozlowski, Bingard, all of them. It might be a better team than Parish. They might be. Now, I'm going to be very slow to bet against Parish because last time I did that turned out to be probably the worst pick I've ever made on air, and I value my own safety. And I don't think we're hiring security for us at Waco, so that might, factor into my
Not in
pick.
the budget.
That being said, it's hard for me not to say in this moment that Prestonwood is the best team in the state. Your thoughts?
I get where you're coming from, and I'm not going to say no, but I'm not going to also say yes. I'm just going to be in the little gray area. And what is it? I forget what it is. Anyways, not the point. It's gonna be interesting. This was a team, right, where there's clips of me saying that if the transfer portal is kind to them, they will be the number one seed in this state and they'd be the probable state champion favorite. And the portal really wasn't kind for them for a while, right? Where
Imagine Matthew McLean and Jonathan Frenchlove on this team.
that's what I'm saying. Both
Oh,
both
raps.
both starting 2 receivers graduate or transfer out. Your 2 running backs graduate, right? Where forget the guys last year, but you know who I'm talking about.
LJ Taylor and Caden Collins. No, Caden Collins was a senior.
Yeah, he was a senior. Tyler Shaw also graduated,
Yes.
or Takashi Shaw graduated. Sorry. So like those guys graduated or transferred out, and you were like, okay, what is this team gonna look like, right? Where they get Cam Avery, and you're like, okay, Brock Shelf comes in, you're like, okay, not bad, right? You bring Colt Hillhouse back, bring guard, Cannon Smith comes back, right? You're like, okay, they're still gonna be okay, but like we can't put them at number 1 anymore, right? And until it was literally where it was the Pettijohn brothers literally came in a week before the season or something like that. We were like, I don't how's Prestonwood's season's gonna go. And it's funny, guys, some of the guys have just stepped up, right? Some of the junior Niffen and guys like that have really stepped up. The guys who have went through the program are rising to the occasion. That's awesome to see, right? I think the portal helped them out a little bit at the end, but still, it's a great season for Prestonwood. They're talented. The culture is great. And this is the one thing is the stat wise. Here's the stat for you. Out of the state champion or out of the state title teams that are going to be in Waco this week, there's one coach that hasn't won a state title in TAPS, and that is Donnie Yantes. He'll be searching for his first title out of any of the head coaches and something to watch.
That's crazy.
That's going to be interesting to see if he can finally win one. But to answer your question, do they have everything you need to win a state title? Absolutely. And that's going to be interesting to watch.
Ryan Schroeder, A moment of silence for your alma mater, getting beat 44 to nothing in a semifinal round of the playoffs is never fun. But what I do have to say is the turnaround that Legacy Christian has had as a program after having an abysmal season as recently as I think that was 2022. It is just incredible where they've come from. They've gotten to state semifinals back to back. And if there weren't three absolute monstrous programs in the state, this is a state champion caliber team. That being said, ultimately, I think I think one of you were watching this a little bit, and it seemed like Sam
Yeah,
Jones was not playing
he didn't
in
play
this
this game.
one.
No.
Yeah, so obviously, I think two things are true that Prestonwood probably doesn't score 44 points, they don't have 205 rushing yards, and also maybe Legacy scores a bit more. But I do think ultimately this outcome was sealed. But your thoughts on what is a great season for Legacy Christian and also an even better win for Prestonwood to move on to state?
First off, just want to congratulate Legacy again on making the semifinals. I hope everyone that like I said the whole statement of any of the top four teams would have made it. It's nothing special that Legacy just had a good draw. Is like I hope you realize what I meant by that. It was a favorable draw for Legacy. Truly, it was just you were on the side of the bracket that didn't have any of the other North teams, and you found your way into playing Prestonwood, who, by the way, is still an incredible team. But like Bishop Lynch would have done the same, Liberty would have done the same, like all these other teams would have done the same. I just think that we're so far ahead in the North and the South that Legacy gets to be in these positions without trashing on my alma mater too much, because I feel like that's kind of the opposite of what we do on this program. But I truly am excited, and it was a great year, and I'm really sad that Sam Jones didn't play in this game. I do have to shout out Prestonwood in this game because I'm looking at this one play where Will Taylor quite literally just trucks three dudes on his way to a 64-yard touchdown. Like plays like that are just the reason why certain teams are in a different upper echelon than other teams, even inside of their own districts. I'll tell you this: Prestonwood is at a caliber that really is only on the level of Parish. If there was to be any year that I think the seven-time, state champion finalists, Parish Episcopal, besides the Liberty years, maybe this year is a close one. Well, I'm super excited to preview this one as well when we get on the show on that comes out on Thursday. But all things being said, if you look up Friday at 3 p.m. and you see Prestonwood leading in the state championship game, just know it's not the craziest idea that's ever been out there. This team is elite. They have elite defenders, and their offense has stepped up immensely. Shout out to the Lions of Prestonwood.
No, well, say to that point. It's just, we'll get into spreads and stuff when we get to the episode. At this point in time, I think this game's a pick 'em from a betting standpoint. I think this is a one team's maybe a half point favorite. Like I genuinely don't think either team is significantly above the other, which is crazy because both sides are so good. That being said, we're going to see, and this will be broken down in depth whenever we get to our state preview that you will see on Thursday evening. But before that,
One last thing I was going to say real quick, was the shout out to Grant Edwards and Drew Womack, offensive line. I didn't shout that out at the beginning. Literally just two dudes that were offensive lineman power horses for Legacy this year. Wanted to make sure they got their flowers with both of them dealing with injuries the entire year in their 4 years, or for Grant's 4 years at Legacy, and then Jude's coming in this year being an elite help.
Yeah.
did you combine powerhouse and workhorse to make power horse?
I think that's fair. Is that not? I do that a
I mean,
lot on
sure.
this program.
I
I
rock
make
with
up
it.
I make up words more often than I say real words on this program.
I
And
rock with it, Walker.
adding on to that, shout out to like Luke Lawrence and Jackson Ladd and
Yeah,
those seniors and
them
that
too.
George Proctor. Um, it's an interesting senior class because they got them back-to-back semifinals years in Tabs Division One. You can say it last year with Sam Jones as well, of course. Why didn't I mention him off the top? But it was kind of like this senior class beat the brakes off of Antonia last year to get to the semifinals. Beat a good, solid St. Thomas team this year. It's a testament to the senior class and got them into a standard, right? That they needed to be at. And shout out to Legacy. That's a huge accomplishment.
Shut up.
Definitely so. But with that being said, we will now move into a recap of what was described as Ragnarok, the end of days, and even the Kurukshetra, All Saints versus Regents in the game of the year, perhaps the decade The Saints go marching in following a 49-35 win over Austin Regents. This was a game you knew instantly was going down to the wire. Devine and Regents would only need 90 seconds to drive the field and hit Blake Smith to open the scoring at 7-0. Then Hudson Reeser would then make perhaps the catch of the year as he extended like Michelangelo's touch of Adam to reel in the one-handed grab for the score. Just an absurd catch from an absurd athlete, 7-7. Freshman stud running back Isaiah Mills would then push through to place Regents ahead at 14-7 to open the second quarter. And following a 40-yard reception by Reeser, Beard would find Hatton French in the corner of the end zone to lock us at 14. Regents would then miss a 42-yard field goal, and following another trade of possessions, Gavin Beard would launch a Hail Mary from 50 yards out, as Gabe Starling would go up with 4 Regents defenders and say, to quote Ryan Schroeder, "You're too little," out battling all of them for the ball to put the Saints ahead 21-14 as we head to the half. And because one head tap wasn't enough, Reeser would then take another as he went up and snagged the perfectly placed ball from Beard off the head of his defender for the score, 28-14 Saints. Regents would then drive the field, and Devine would hit Blake Smith, who then proceeded to hit one of the filthiest and most nonchalant spin cycles I've ever seen and walk into the end zone, 28-21 Saints. And following a big tackle for loss by Jackson Prater and a short punt, Regents would cut the deficit to a single score as Ben Smith would rumble in from 25 yards out to pay dirt. 28-28 with 12 minutes left for everything. But Gavin Beard would prove he's a future Hoya, putting his body on the line, lowering the shoulder for the rushing score of 35-28 Saints. But Cade Millington would race past his mismatch, and Devine would hit him in stride for the 80-yard score to tie us at 35 apiece with 6:44 remaining. But All Saints would drive the field, and the Regents defense would let Burke Toller walk in with the intent of getting the ball back and driving to tie or win with the 2-point conversion. But that was not in the cards, as Keon Atkins came in like a German U-boat locked onto an American carrier and torpedoed Jack Devine to force a 3rd and long. And then junior defensive back Nolan Luffy would make the play of his career, picking off Devine with 2:25 remaining. And Gavin Beard would take the quarterback draw 20 yards up the gut into the end zone, and then all of the emotion came out as the Saints march on to Waco 49-35. We knew going into it, this is what would happen. We had probably 4 or 5 people come up to us after the game and said, "Y'all said this was going to happen." And we were like, "We know, we can see the future." It's just 2 of the best teams in the state, regardless of division, facing off with everything on the line. You knew both had the best offenses in the state. Both defenses had great players as well. It was almost who's going to end up with the ball last. And All Saints just made a couple more plays at the end of the game. Walker, I consistently see, and I feel like I've seen this many times over many years, especially with Parish. It reminds me of the Parish defense against Liberty last year, is that you can have 3 or 4 great DBs, but if you're facing a team that's got 4 incredible receivers, all it takes is one hole in your secondary, and they're going to rotate and switch until they find that and exploit it over and over and over and over again. That's what this felt like. All Saints just rotated and switched, and whether it was Hatton French, whether it was Gabe Starling, whether it was Hudson Reeves, or whether it was Jaden Biles, it just happened over and over and over again. It was honestly, a great defensive effort by Regents, I think it was, they held them out for a long time. All that being said, All Saints proves why they're still the best team in the state, regardless of division, as they move on to a rematch with Second Baptist in Waco. Your thoughts on All Saints winning the game of the year?
Yeah, I mean, this was awesome. I just want to thank both coaching staff, both teams, and both communities. This was awesome. Like it made this is what Texas high school football is all about. I say it a couple of times a year, and this is really what it means. Like 2 of the best cultures, 2 of the best teams going at it, and just, I mean, it was awesome. It was truly, truly awesome. Um, you talk about, they just, I think also just had too many guys. They just had too many guys you could rotate so many key pieces in this one. And that's at the end of the day, that's what it is. Regents got caught unlucky with a lot of things in this one where Drew Novi, their star athlete, goes out in the first quarter due to I think a concussion or something wrong, and he's out for the rest of the game, which is I'm not saying he would have stopped Hudson Razor or Gabe Starling, but it would have been a more interesting battle in this one for sure, right? Your best DB out for this one. They had a targeting call on number 11. I think Anderson went out in the third or fourth quarter. The safety call, that was insane. Something to mention there too. Um, one of the guys for All Saints steps out of the end zone, goes back in the end zone, knees it, and it should have been a safety, but they called illegal formation on the kickoff, which I supposedly on someone on the Regents sideline told me that they looked back at it and it was wrong, so that safety should have counted. Which that's seven. I think they went down and scored on that drive, so that's 7 points that have been taken off. Anyways, not making excuses. It's just like they're just things just don't go wrong, and I think also just a lot of their guys, Blake Smith, Cade Millington, both played both sides all game. Like they just had to rotate DBs to go and try to get anything they have it right. But that's what the best teams do. You have to make the big plays, and that's what happened in this one. And both teams did. I think the Divine to Millington, big catch in the fourth quarter was awesome to tie the game back up. When they flipped the switch when Anderson scored that touchdown and tied it up, I was like, okay, this is gonna be fun, and it was. And yeah, but I just think All Saints, at the end of the day, they just have more talented guys and a better team holistically in the trenches. I think maybe it'll warm out a little bit. I don't think Beard really got touched most of the game. I think Regis did a really good job of controlling the line of scrimmage at sometimes too. Like there was not a lot of big runs, maybe some for like 10 yards, but nothing huge, right? So at the end of the day, a great match between two teams, two well-coached ball clubs, and that's what you wanted to see. Um, all Saints moves on, and we'll talk about him more. So I just want to talk about Regents a little bit. This is one of the teams and the seniors that we got able to really get to know a little bit better, right? And I wanted to shout out some of these seniors: Drew Novy, Blake Smith, Cade Millington, Ashton Hopkins, Charlie Burton, Hayes Contine, and Jackson Prater. Those guys were awesome this year. This is, I believe, if I did my math right, this is the first senior class. This is the first class without a state title at Regents, because last year's class was freshmen when they won the title in 22. So their legacy is going to get arched with not a title next to their name, which is hard to say. But you're telling me that guys like Novi, Smith, and Millington and Hopkins are going to be talked about for years, right? That's what I hope they understand is like when we talk about some of the great guys at Regions, those guys get recognized because they absolutely deserve to be recognized because they're heck of players. Blake Smith is going to go down one of the best to do at Regions, hopefully. Same with Millington. Same with Novi. Novi's probably, I'm going to say it probably now. It's going to be the defensive back of the year. Millington and Smith are going to be up for receiver of the year. Like those guys, Charlie Burnell for D line of the year. Like those guys were epic this year, and their senior class was awesome. And you hate to see it. Also, Coach Phillips ends his reign as head coach at Regents with a loss. But I mean, what he's done for that program, a state title in his first year of being head coach, a heck of a year for him. There is such a great group of guys over there, and all the it's awesome to see. So best of luck to Coach Phillips. I know he's staying around the program, so he's not leaving or anything. But I'm excited for the new era under Coach Shotwell. I think he's a great dude, and I'm excited for that. Moving on to the next year, I think it's going to be interesting. I think they have to take a step back as a Regents group. When I mean a step back, I mean they're going to win their district by 35 instead of 50. You know what I mean? But you have some pieces coming back: Braylon Compton, Colin Angelo, Kellen Millington the younger, Drew Shepard, Matthew Robb, Oliver Cooper, Cole Canepa, Diego Romero, and others. And of course, you bring back probably the MVP right now in TAPS Division 2 and Jack Devine. I don't know what he ended up with at the end of the year. Wes, can you help me out with that? But he is sensational. And you saw him this thing. Yes, Wes.
He had 741 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns, 3,492 passing yards, 54 touchdowns for a total of 4,233 yards and 66 touchdowns. Sorry, 67 touchdowns total.
6-7.
What?
I mean, that's an MVP season. I don't know anyone can really replace what he did this year, and I think it's a testament to him. You have him back, you can win a championship. That's kind of the end of the day. You have him on your football team. You always have a chance to win a state title. In Division 2, you have to have a good team and a Division 1 quarterback to win a state title. That's just how it is. and they have both. And so I'm excited for next year. I'm excited for some other guys to step up. We talk about Isaiah Mills as a freshman. Drew Shepard is the corner that's going to come back for this year, who started as a sophomore. They have some pieces coming back that I'm really, really excited about. But I just think they're going to have to take a step back because they're not All Saints. They're not Parish. They're not there. You don't see them recruit. It's the guys who have going through the program is the team. And I think for this team at Austin Regents was dang, dang good. They had probably a lot of great teams when they had to play Cedar Hill Trinity Christian 3 straight times. It's the same type of thing. Those teams are special, and this one was too. It just ran into a team that has a lot of guys, and sometimes with a team that's grown up through the program, this is the best you can do. But what a ball game! At the end of the day, that's what matters. What a ball game! It was so much fun to be there.
Yeah, no, it was truly incredible. It was game of the year in every sense of the word, and I think you did a really good job of highlighting Austin Regents as. I mean, it stinks that it can't be Regents versus All Saints for the title, but it is what it is. And maybe Second Baptist will make us eat those words here in one short week. Ryan Schroeder, ultimately the best game of the year, in my opinion, was played on Friday. Regents comes up just short as All Saints makes it back to Waco. Your thoughts?
Yeah, best game of the year, no doubt. Regardless of even the games that are going to even happen this weekend, you could argue that this game will still have been game of the year. Gotta shout out Jack Devine, Blake Smith combo. I mean, that in and of itself was just electric. Blake Smith, from his sophomore to his senior season, averaged 50 yards per game. That is pretty insane to think about. The dude was a stud, 37 career touchdowns, averaging about, what's the math on that? 12.33 per year, averaging about one a game. I mean, the dude is just electric. Blake Smith is electric and deserves way more credit than he is. He's a 5'8", 155 receiver. He's elite, bro. He's elite. Shout out Blake Smith. Shout out Jack Devine. I'm super excited to see what he can do next year. After coming off a 2,300 season, then a 3,500 yard season, you don't even know what he's going to put up in his senior year. Why not 4,000 yards in his senior year? Why not Jack Devine? All that to be said, this Regents team, like I've said all year long, is the best Regents team we've seen in a gosh darn a long time. You almost felt like it was inevitable. 2 12-0 teams. I mean, this was one of one. So glad Wes and Walker and even more coverage from Jaden and Jay could be there on site. I mean, this was electric. And wow, I mean, All Saints is heading back undefeated, haven't lost since the state championship in 23. They're looking like that potentially may not happen again this year. Can they keep this streak? What is it, 27 games in a row currently?
Yep, we're at 27. It seems like it will be 28 if they can win in Waco. I mean, truly just something I feel like we also don't talk about. We talk a lot about All Saints, being the best team in TXPS. Less so that they've won 27 straight games en route to what they are hoping will be their second consecutive Division II state title. All that being said, with that wrapping, that is all the games that we had to cover for the semifinal round. And the 4 games that are going to be games of the week as it is state. We have the Division I through the Division IV championships to preview on Thursday night. You will get that in your feed on Friday and Saturday. You're going to see all the content possible coming from us and our student analysts as we give you pregame, in-game, post-game, and maybe something else in terms of coverage for all of those games. Please keep tuned in for that. It will be here before you know it. But with that being said, as always, I've been 130, your host and crew, Wes Tolleson. Ryan Schroeder and Walker Lott have fantastically been themselves. We will see you in Waco, Texas for the TAP State Championships. See you then.